Good morning and welcome to Saturday Morning Coffee. I'm Twana with Destiny Education. And of course, we have the coffee of the Saturday. I know, it's Colombian. I don't have a coffee to review for you this week because what we need to talk about is significantly more important. Do you wonder why your life is struggling? It's because your faith isn't big enough. And I want you to know that if you're sitting in a blessing that the Lord gave you and you think this is pretty big, then imagine how much bigger the other blessings are He wants to give you. I want everyone to be freed today with what we talk about. Because I remember a day when I thought I had a great deal of faith and I realized that I wasn't using it the right way. What is faith? Well, Hebrews 11:1 tells us what it is. Now, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not yet seen. I love that definition. Let me tell you why. How do you have evidence of things you haven't seen? This is a great answer. You ready for this? Because you want it. Now, not everything we want is from God. If you want somebody else's husband, keep your hands to yourself. If you want some other man's wife, keep your hands to yourself. That is not from God. And no, God did not tell you that that person was your husband. Well, yes, they did. No, they didn't. Because His job is to keep the family together. It's not to tear it apart. So He's not going to send you someone who belongs to someone else. But if that's the way you're thinking, you really need to look at the walk that you have with the Father, because that's not a Jesus walk. That is a pride and ego walk, and you need to get past it. Plain and simple. Here's what I want you to understand. When you are hoping for a house, when you're hoping for a new car, when you're hoping that your kids are going to come home, when you're hoping for all these things, that is your evidence of where you're going. And this is the hardest thing to understand, because when you are in the middle of the chaos and the hardship and the crazy, your stomach is churning, you feel like you're a failure, everything seems to be falling apart. That vision comes to give you the strength to keep fighting. There's nothing you hope for that is wrong. But what do we do when we're scared? We tell ourselves that it's impossible. You don't know why you're thinking it. We have a whole laundry list of excuses we tell ourselves for why we haven't gotten to where we want to go. Now, not understanding how to get there is not the same thing as not having faith. We can tell when we don't have faith because we stop believing. Listen, everything you have first came from not having it. Let me give you the simplest example I can think of. The only reason anybody ever buys a pizza cutter is because one time at home, they needed to cut a pizza and they didn't have a wheel. And they said to themselves, I need to go get a pizza cutter. You first had the thought before you had the piece of equipment. It's the same thing in life. You have to first believe it before it comes to pass. I stink. I have to take a shower. You get up, you walk in the bathroom, you jump in the shower. What came first? The thought. Everything you do, everything you have, first begins with a thought. The fact that now faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen is that nobody saw what you asked for before it materialized. It has to come from a thought before it can come into reality. So I want to talk to you about something. I want to talk to you today about nasty people, because some of the nastiest people you will ever meet live in this building called the church. And before we go into that, I want to break down some really false ideologies about religion. Number one, religion is a man-made construct that is designed to divide people. Catholicism, Protestantism, Pentecostals, Baptists, Methodists, all of that is a form of division. Who was the one group of people that Jesus stayed away from when he was walking this planet? The Pharisees and the Sadducees. And they were what? The religious sect. You didn't see him lining himself up with all the different religions of the world. You saw him lining himself up with the broken people of the world. Because when you line yourself up with the broken people of the world, 99% of the time, they are not thinking they are better than anybody else. But I'll tell you what, When you meet a person who has a head knowledge of the Bible, but the Bible is not impacting their heart, oh my God, they are a mess. Those are the most dangerous people in the world because they utilize the Bible as a weapon. They weaponize it against God's people, and they do not see, because they are so badly deluded, that they are putting nails in their own coffin and that they are fighting on the absolute wrong side of God. Nasty people do not ever have faith. You cannot have faith and be nasty. It is the oddest thing. If you go through Hebrews chapter 11 and find all the people in there in the what's called the Hall of Faith, not one of them had a bad attitude. They all believed in the impossible. You cannot believe in the impossible and have hatred in your heart. Otherwise, you limit your ability to see beyond. They don't work hand in hand. And I have struggled and tried to figure out an easy way to explain this to you, but I gotta tell you, some things are just the rules. They're just the laws. You cannot hate and have faith. You can have faith and dislike someone because of something that they've done, but hate is all consuming. It takes up too much space. Choosing not to spend time with a person, yeah, that's oftentimes wisdom. They do not fall in the same category, not even a little bit. You got to understand this. Faith and hate cannot coexist. It's funny because, God says you can't serve two masters. For you will love one and hate the other. Faith lines up with God. Hate lines up with sin. It's light and dark. The two cannot coexist. So when you see hateful people talking trash out there, remember that first they're hateful. Nothing they're saying is true. You can't be hateful and have faith. It just is impossible. So with that being said, here's what I want you to know about faith, because we're going to wrap this up really early today. At some point, you have to choose to understand or to believe that the impossible is wholly possible. It doesn't matter if you're walking with Jesus or not. I want to use two examples of people who are not openly walking with Jesus. They very openly preach evolution and its make-believe foundations, okay? Both of them are YouTube stars, right? Mark Rober, who I love his little squirrel things. I love Mark's squirrel things. If you ever get a chance to watch his Squirrel Races 2.0 or 3.0, they're absolutely adorable, but I love squirrels. I absolutely love squirrels. I don't understand why they are so fascinating to me, and he talks in that video about every reason I think they're fascinating. The other one is Mr. Beast, Jimmy Donaldson. I love Jimmy's story because from the time he was 14, he knew he was going to be a YouTube star. And he followed, unbeknownst to him, biblical principles. Number one, he meditated on it day and night. He obsessed with it, because the only way to obtain the impossible is to obsess on what needs to happen within the impossible. Listen, when a whole bunch of people are telling you quit obsessing, ignore them. Ignore them, because there is no one who is living at billionaire status who is going to tell you don't obsess. They are going to say quite the contrary. You have to obsess in the beginning until you start manifesting what it is you see in your mind. Okay. So if I see this channel with 300 million subscribers, then I have to obsess over the data, what needs to happen, how we need to tweak the videos, what we need to increase, what things we need to let. You have to do that to get to where you want to go. Mark Roberson was working at NASA and left his job at NASA to become a YouTube sensation. Now he has 20 million followers, and there aren't many places he goes that kids don't recognize who he is. He has some great stuff out there until he talks about evolution. But, not everybody's perfect. We'll forgive him for that. These are two examples of biblical principles working. They always work. You cannot attempt to do something that the principles don't step in. As long as you're lining up with the principle, you're going to get there. Here's the difference between someone who stands on the principle and someone who walks with the Father. At some point, that person who's standing on that principle will end up giving everything they have to the person who walks with the Father, because they are building up their stuff for that other person. Another biblical principle. I'm not going to argue it with you. It just is what it is. It is now the time to start believing in the things that you don't see. Listen, I'm going to share this with you. Some of you will listen and some of you won't. But this is a warning. And it's one of the very few times that on this channel, I will give this to you. Here's the deal. This world is in more trouble than people realize. There are things going on behind the scenes that people are not talking about. And they're trying to keep it very quiet, but it keeps seeping out, warning you. And for those of you who have some little gut calling in your gut that's telling you things are about to get bad, oh, you got that very right. They are about to get real bad. And let me explain something to you. You do not want to get caught on the wrong side of bad. Now is not the time to sit back in your feelings and not accomplish anything. You need to get up and go to work. It's time to bring whatever it is you're envisioning to fruition, because too much longer and the system falls apart. And when that happens, oops, now you're caught in the wrong place. And while the world is going broke, you're going to be going with them. Or you step out of your fear and you start walking on faith. And you go, you know what? I'm going to fall. Oh, well, I'm already falling. That's the deal. Here, you're sitting back. For those of you who are sitting back with this idea and you're not doing it, you're already failing. Like, you can't be more failing than you are right now. You're sitting on your couch and you're not doing what you need to be doing. That's a failure. So not doing anything is far more of a failure than getting up and finding out what doesn't work to get to where it is you want to go. See, failure is all about how you see things. And listen, you're not talking to somebody who hasn't been called a failure many times. And I mean, it's so bad at this point. I hear when somebody goes, "You're just a failure," I go, "Wah, wah, 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 wah." Okay, well, until you accomplish something great, bite it. I'm not trying to hear it. And I keep going. And that's where I want you to get, is to that place where your inner strength is so strong that no matter what anybody says, you just keep going. You know, for some people, it's really devastating when their family doesn't believe in them. But let me explain something to you. Family ain't nothing but a bunch of people put together, and not by choice. It doesn't matter if your family doesn't believe. Let me tell you when your family begins to believe: when the money starts making its appearance. It's the most ridiculous thing in the world. And it's the thing that drives me the craziest, because we don't look at the growth that happens in a person normally. We look at the financial resources. And if they don't have financial resources, then it doesn't work. What they're doing isn't working. They don't have the ability to do it. That's the crap that they feed you when they're sitting back calling you out of your name. No, don't accept that. It's rubbish. It's rigmarole. It's ridiculousness. And it's nothing but lies. It's not the money that makes you the success. It's the drive and the fire that you build up on the inside that makes you the success. Because if at any point the money disappears, that drive and success is the thing that's going to fire you to get back on track and back to that level. Now listen, I don't want you doing it for the money. Whatever it is you're doing, make sure that it's about changing lives. Because when you go out there and you go to change lives, I promise you the money will follow. And you will be so not worried about the money that it will just start filling your bank accounts, and you won't even sit back and worry about it. You're just like, whatever, it's fine. And it truly is. It truly is. And I want you to understand that. It's the drive to change people's lives. It's the drive to make sure that people don't have to go through a pain that no human alive should have to go through. It's fixing a problem, whatever that problem is. Those are the things that give you genuine drive and genuine strength to make it through the hard times. And when that is the focus of your why, you're unstoppable. Go find your why and go become unstoppable. I'll see you next Saturday. hopefully with a different coffee.